to strap in and get ready. The leaders in NRL SuperCoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Metrics, and Whisperer.
Yes, g'day guys. We are ahead of round 3 of NRL SuperCoach. We've got Turbo Touch and Go Sunday. We've got Burton and Kickout going down. Now we've got Dylan Lucas, Josh, who looks like he is he's done a little bit of a pig string at training, unfortunately. So it's all happening.
Yeah, he's done the turboitis, which is not good. Makes things really interesting, but yeah, it's a very, very eventful day. I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions and we'll chat about it more at length throughout the next hour and a half. Very much looking forward to it. Yes,
as always. It's good to be here Wednesday night. Guys, we're obviously live, so jump in and let us know how you went last week. If you didn't jump on the Sunday show and brag about your score, let us know how you went. Obviously, we've got some OGs in the chat. Brent's in the chat. Obviously, plenty of questions around Lucas and what we do there. Lachlan Camilleri's asking us where Dylan Lucas' value lies with one fit hamstring, and that's probably on your bench for a couple of weeks, Lachlan. But it's good to have everybody here. Thanks for joining us, guys. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe. Please hit the like button. And if you're listening on audio, whether it's Spotify or Apple or wherever it is you get your audio podcast, hit that follow button, leave us a 5-star review. If you haven't yet, it's not too late. You can still jump in the Unlimited League. We'll keep this one open for probably about 10 rounds. 211518 is the code. The top scorer for that league every single week wins themselves a standard squeeze prize pack. So jump on in there and take us on. And, if you knock us off, I'm sure we'll give you a proverbial high five. It's not too late, Josh, to enter the World Cup or the UFC either, is it?
Absolutely not. Plenty of stuff going on. My AFL season may be capitulated, but the SuperCoach World Cup is still open for everyone. 4 formats of SuperCoach across 52 glorious weeks: NBL, AFL, BBL, and of course our flagship NRL. For awesome competitions. Had a massive turnout last year, having an even greater turnout this year. And the NRL UFC, the ultimate fantasy coach. NRL SuperCoach, NRL SuperCoach, NRL Fantasy, Bundy Mixer, and of course Dream Team as well for SuperCoach / NRL formats. Same thing. Correlate your ranks across all 4 and come out victorious amongst your peers.
That's it. And you can get involved. All you need to do is jump in the Discord or to send us one of us a DM. We'll sort you out and show you how to enter. It's only $25. So $25 for the whole season. You can take out up to 50% of the pool if you win, and also bragging rights, which is the most important part, of course. But guys, we're here to talk NRL SuperCoach for round 3. On today's show, we're talking all the winners and losers from TLT round 3. We're talking buy, hold, and sell. You'll notice Matrix not on the show tonight, unfortunately, but I'm sure we'll be able to pass on some thoughts from him that he's talked about throughout the week. We'll give you our Cheapie rankings as well. It's time to make money this week, so we'll give you our rankings on the top 10 most relevant cheapies and their break-evens this week for you to target. We'll go Captain's Corner as we always do and talk about the best VC and C options. It's pretty fucking simple this week, really, with captaincy. For the most part, there's only a couple of very standout games. So we'll talk about them, and we'll finish off with our game day squad of the round. And we may as well kick things off with the standard squeeze of the week, brought to you by The Standard Squeeze, helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. You can go to thestandardsqueeze.com, use the code IFS2025 and get yourself 15% off everything. And you know who doesn't have to pay a thing? It's Piggy. What a name. Piggy, coach of Jesus is Up to Wars, which is probably one of the better team names I've seen this year, with a 1551 last week, Josh. He's into 27th overall. We've also got first place overall in the league as well. Now, this is what I think is really impressive. He had Pong as straight captain, right? On Thursday night. Straight C. Just
captain Thursday game. Vibes.
Yep. Just backed him in. He had Sam Stone Street with 112. He had Metcalf, backed in Metcalf with the 117. He had Lucas 97. He had Christian Tuipulotu 99. And he managed to get the top score of the week with Reece Walsh in his squad this week. So that is the ultimate brag. Yes. So congratulations, Piggy. You've won yourself a standard squeeze prize pack, mate. Good on you. That can be either a 4-in-1 that I've got here, got my beer in here. You can get multiple colors, or you can get yourself a combo pack as well that'll give you the perfect pour every single time. So congrats. Now, mate, we've got a lot to talk about, don't we? We should rip into the weekly preview. It's fun looking into the weekly preview. This one's probably going to be a little bit of a longer one, Josh, because obviously it's, the first week where we probably should be just sending it when we're talking trades. You boosting this week?
Mate, is the bear shit in the woods?
Yeah. I like
Pope
it.
Catholic?
Yes, it's a bit like that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If you're not boosting, I would consider it.
What's the point?
I think
what's the point of a boost if you're not going to use it?
Yeah. And especially now when you can capitalize on now some very, very juicy break evens. So let's have a chat about who won and who lost throughout TLT. Let's just start with the winners. Had to throw a bit of Jamie Foxx to start things off, and a bit of Justin Timberlake. Good little combo there for the winners. But
that's some nostalgia vibes right there.
I know, what a tune! It takes me back to when I was 18. Now in the notes here, I've got Dane Laurie replaces Edwards because I did these notes about 2 hours ago, and it's not the case anymore.
I mean, he does replace Edwards, but is it Tom Jenkins replaces him? So
yes. Bit of musical fullback chairs, bit like Supercoach at the moment. But
yes.
So Tom Jenkins in the 22 jersey comes into the fullback spot to replace Edwards, which is an interesting one. I don't know where Ivan Cleary's going with this selection. Maybe Dane Laurie wasn't 100% right. Maybe he copped a knock during the week, or maybe he's just preferred. Very interesting play. Probably not Supercoach relevant per se. We're probably not going to buy Tom Jenkins, considering Edwards is only going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks with that groin injury.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was the prognosis. I was just put off by Johnny Rotten on Twitter. Very off topic, but he just said, "I am the Ronald Volkman of Supercoach, an absolute myth." That's a great comment.
Oh, that's tough.
He said I'm blocked for fake news on my Dylan Lucas's outpost about 5 hours ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's going to find out that he should unblock you because it's very real news.
Sorry, I was just reading my Twitter notification as you were saying that. No, but 3 to 4 weeks for old D Edwards, and yeah, we thought Dane Laurie was coming in. We thought the wheels were well and truly up, but no, mate, wheels up for Tom Jenkins. So shout out to him. Tony Staggs back, due to return from the Bronx, named on the extended bench, but has been given the Anthony Seabelt treatment of given up until game day to prove his fitness. And he might come in. It's going to be a very nervous watch for Garrett Shibasaki owners and Dean Mariner owners alike. I do think it might be the latter that drops out. I don't think Shibasaki has done anything wrong to suggest that he is being dropped, and he has obviously won the spot based off defense. So yeah, Big Tony's back in, and he was a waiver wire watch for you in the draft space, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you see a guy that is a proven Supercoach performer over years running at Jackson Purdue, who teams have isolated him in defense over the first 2 rounds, which is fair. He's a smaller body in the centers. So Tony Staggs could do another number on him this week if they go the same route, considering he'll come back into right center, regardless of whether it's Mariner or if it's Shibasaki staying. So yeah, definitely a good little waiver pick if you're still sitting there on your waivers. Jackie Whiten, he's back from suspension. Tallis Duncan's been named to start, but there is every chance he probably won't end up playing due to a hip injury at the moment. So interesting one to see who replaces him in the 13, considering Lachlan Hubner, who sits in the losers category this week, unfortunately is suspended for 2 weeks. So close watch on the South's final teams there. But mate, Finifa Wiaki, he returns from his HIA. I had a couple of questions about him and people that held him through last week. Obviously not ideal that you don't get the points there, but I'm not trading him out with Connolly Lemuel, who's still probably at least 3 to 4 weeks away from this team.
Yeah, I've got no interest in the Dolphins. That includes like Platt and stuff. Like, yeah, the Dolphins are kind of strange. I mean, Gosako, he might live to see another day if Dylan Lucas is out for longer than anticipated, but that probably does have a role and effect into my boy. I've just changed my sub name on this call. Adam Elliott, wheels are well and truly up. It's 2021 all over again. Adam Elliott starts at lock, originally with Kai Pierce-Paul out, but now it looks like Thomas Kant will be playing left edge for the supposed injured Dylan Lucas. I was lucky enough to get a bit of a tip off at about 1 o'clock. Posted it. I don't know, mate. I feel like no matter what I post, I'm just painted with the Ethan Strange brush, which is fair enough, sure. But it feels like it's a case of I could be right 90% of the time, but it's always the 10% people bring up. But yeah, shout out to the follower of mine that was at training on the money there. Dylan Lucas pinged a Travojevic muscle, and mate, could be 2, could be 4. Problem is we don't know with the buy, and it really becomes really hard to sell him next week, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, I think you've just got to, especially with all the other fires that we've got to put out this week. You know, there's some players that are injured, the Hoskings of the world. We'll talk about soon all the injuries on this list, because I can tell you right now, everybody, that the losers list, unfortunately, is bigger than the winners list this week. So that there are a few players that are out, a few players that have missed selection. So I feel like he's just a guy that can stay there by default for me for a little bit, and just hoping to God that he's back in round 5 after their bye, and he's had 2.5 weeks to recover. That's the play, I think, for me. But if you've got no other fires, sure, I can get around it. I don't hate it.
Yeah, so I guess WhatsApp, and this is a great plug for the Patreon, WhatsApp members have sort of listened to my word vomit for the past 2 days. I sort of use the expert chat as my verbal diary. But yeah, I mean, initial plans for me was to maybe look at moving Asako on next week in favor of Cleary. I'm okay with selling Lucas next week if we get word that it's serious. But if it's only like 2 weeks, we're talking this week, we're talking next week with the bye, it becomes really tough then to hold him for 3 weeks and see him not named at TLT. I just feel like this is going to be an ongoing issue where, you know, we hold him this week because we're like, okay, well, it's only 2 weeks. He's not named next week, of course, because it's the bye. And then we're not named in round 5. And then we're like, okay, well, next week's the 4th week.
Might be next week.
Yeah. And then round 6 TLT rolls around and we're like, what the fuck's going on? And by round 7, we've got a 250k asset, a 650k asset that's just sat there and done nothing for 4 weeks. So I'm really hoping NRL Physio pulls through and gives us a bit of a prognosis, or Adam O'Brien comes out and lets us know what happens. I believe, I don't know if it's been confirmed, but the mail that I got was scanned tomorrow. That was at about 3 o'clock. Yeah, time will tell what happens with that.
Yes, sadly. I think stash on the bench and wait for more news. I think at this point, I think we should also have enough cover. At centre wing, enough playable options in Toya and Tamale and these kind of guys. Even Shibasaki this week plays against the Cowboys. Like, they've got some pretty nice matchups for these bottom dollar cheapie guys, Naf Whites and those guys on the bench as well. They're very playable. So, yeah, could be worse. Could be worse, that's for sure. Dean Hawkins, mate, he has punted Ronald Volkman in the 7 jersey. So he plays his first game of the season to partner Dylan Brown in the halves. And we've also got Ryan Madison and Josh Addo-Carr in the reserves. So we could see probably both of these guys come back into the team, which they sorely need, the Eels. They need that experience on the park in Maddo and Addo-Carr. What do you think the role's going to be between Hawkins and Brown? Do you think this affects Brown positively, negatively? Is there any change?
No, I don't think so. Probably more, maybe wheels a little bit further up for Iongi. That's probably the only thing. You know, we said this with early ball, but it didn't materialize last week against an absolute premiership juggernaut in the West Tigers. I mean, it's well and truly expected to see him score 25 points against the best defense in the NRL. So, you know, can't blame the kid. But no, look, for me, it's probably more or less the same. I'm actually kind of keen on Parramatta this week against the Dogs, not to win, but like if you listen to Over the Cap, I think I've tipped them like plus 9.5, which seems really weird considering I just watched them be a basket case on the weekend. But no kicks, no Burton. I mean, maybe wheels up for Preston as well. Like, hopefully he gets some more ball there. But as for Brown, I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to sell Brown. I don't subscribe to that theory. You know, he had that try taken away from him last week. He gets that. He ends up, you know, much more favorable than what he ended up on. So for me, he's still the main guy. He's still a ball running 5'8". He's still a tackle busting machine. Gets you a fair bit of base. So for me, it's like I'm still pretty keen on having Dylan, and nothing's changed for me to want to sell him.
Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about Dylan Brown a little bit later, I'm sure. But Turbo and DCE, mate, this is where all the conversation comes from. We talked a lot about this last night on the subscriber Q&A. So we'll try and limit the discourse somewhat on Turbo, but there's going to be a lot of questions on Turbo and what we do with him. People have very strong opinions either way on this one. Feels like a bit of a community divider again. It feels like I'm
bit of a straightforward about him.
Yeah. I feel like I'm arguing with about the Iongi fullback versus 3-gun fullbacks all over again. But I mean, DCE, not really many people own. That's not the talking point. But the Turbo conversation said to be 50-50 by Seabold, which essentially means 20-80 in coach's language. I would say that he is less than 20% chance of playing. And we've got the quote from Seabold here in full. He said, "We named him yesterday. We're optimistic. But I think Turbo will definitely have to do a fitness test at the back end of the week. We'll be cautious with Turbo as well. The good news is that nothing showed up on the scan. It is just general tightness, but obviously with a little bit of a history, we need to make sure that we get him right before we put him back on the field." Turbo works really hard. And as I said, we're optimistic, but we're also 50-50 on Turbo. He's done his drilling yesterday and this morning. And when I say drilling, that's all your running type drills on field and inside the gym. There's no strain there. So if he doesn't play this week, he'll be available the following week. And the only reason why he wouldn't play this week is because we're trying to make sure that we take away any of the tightness or soreness. What a load of fucking dribble. Like, why can't you just come out and say he's long odds to play?
Optimistic on? I'm optimistic on the Tigers winning the comp. It's pretty much the same fucking thing. Like, we can be optimistic. I can be optimistic that Sydney Sweeney pops into my DMs. I can be optimistic that I don't make a fool of myself on social media every week. I can be optimistic that I'm not ranked 70,000th after next week. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's just such a shit comment. Like, don't say that. Like, that just reeks to me of like, he's not playing. Maybe I'm just sniffing that copium because I don't own him anymore. But like, I'm shocked if he plays this week, genuinely.
Me too. Yeah. Look, surely there'd be a lot more confidence in that conversation than, oh yeah, we're 50-50. Because when a coach comes out and says we're 50-50 on a player, that is the better side, that you're giving the better side of the argument to the public in that scenario. So there's no way he's 50-50. I reckon he's a 20% chance of playing at best. And the fact that it's the last game of the round is a little bit too much risk for me. We got Rod in the chat saying that he's got the Turbo on the bench with the reserve on him and ready to switch to Tamale if he's not named, which is fair. Turbo's got the Eels next week. So I understand why people are holding even if he is out a week. But I think 890 odd K is just a bit too much for my liking, especially now that I also have Lucas. There's every chance Turbo doesn't play. I'd rather use that cash than Lucas's cash personally. So,
I mean, I can get it. Like, I get it. Like, trust me. Like, if he's fit, it's a very, very tough watch next week as a non-owner. But it's just so much uncertainty, so much unknown. Like, I did a pretty detailed write up on Turbo in the Patreon. Shameless plug, $10 a month. Supports us. We put out some good content over there. I give a pretty detailed breakdown of my thoughts on Turbo. And I just don't want to gamble at this point of the season. Like, if this is round 22, 23, and I'm ranked 2.5K, sure. I'll take the punt because it can get me to the top 1K, it can get me in the top 500. But right now, it's like I don't want to fall behind if he's not playing. And what I said in the Patreon was like, all right, last week he was pulled off in the 60th minute. What if this week it's the 50th? What if next week it's the 40th? What if the week after it's the second or third set into the game? Like, it just doesn't fill me with confidence. And every year we take the Turbo gamble. Every year we try and spin narratives in our head that this year's different. He goes and sees Bill Knowles. Okay, well, he's back. Should he play the 2021 season? He was fine. He's back. Oh, he looks really good in the preseason. He's back. And every year it just ends in tears. And last year specifically really scared me when Manly came out and said he is fine. There is nothing to worry about. And he was not fine. He was rubbish for about 5 weeks. Did his groin, was out for 8. When I've got a guy like Payne Haas sitting there staring me in the face, when I've got a guy like Terrell May, when I've got a guy like Tina Fa'asuamaleaui that are just going to give me 75 as safe as houses, why would I take the gamble? I'm looking at fixtures. I've got no intention of captaining him in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Why am I holding an 880K? It's not Turbo at 600K. Like, it's Turbo at 880. Why am I holding that and just praying to dear life that I don't see negative team news an hour before a game on the last game of the round, mind you? It's so many factors for me, Braino, just pile up to make me want to sell him. I can understand why people are holding him. I'm not sitting here saying that he is an absolute must sell, but if you said to me, gun to my head, are we having a sell or are we having a hold on Turbo? I am much more in the sell camp.
Yes, I am with you. I think you've covered it for both of us there. So that's and we're probably talking about him a little bit later in buy, hold, sell too. So we'll cover that then. Mate, your boy Matty Nicholson holds the edge role for the Raiders, which is fantastic. For me, a wait and see. Obviously, I'm just going to pick him up on the bubble. The plan is I'm going to get him into my team next week, or I'm going to try my best. Hopefully my team holds together with the sticky tape that I've put on it so far, that there's no more injuries that stop me from getting guys like Nicholson and Tino and all of those relevant guys on the bubble, maybe a Dragons fullback of some sort. There's plenty of options next week. But the big news also. What's that?
Big Tyrell Sloan fan, are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Big fan. Tamale holds the wing spot too, which is a big win. And there's a lot of questions around Tamale and whether we should get him or whether we can fade him for guys like Arthurs and all the other options, Starling, etc. So we'll talk about Tamale when we rank our top cheapies. But, mate, unfortunately, there's more losers than winners this week, so let's cover those.
Yeah, this one's for the losers.
Bit of Post Malone for you. Word on the street was that Casey McLean was going to be dropped for Tom Jenkins. Remember that? That was a fun hour. And now Casey McLean's all good, so he can go back up into the winners list. Unfortunately, Dane Laurie can be a loser this week. What are your thoughts on Naf White, mate? Because I'm a little bit worried now with Lenu and Collins coming back in. Radley's now in the 13. We were hoping that Naf White was going to get some 13 minutes at the start of the year. It doesn't look like Robinson wants to do that anymore. It looks like Naf White's been exclusively in the prop rotation. I'm a little bit worried. Obviously, break even of only like 17 this week or something, so you can wait, but I don't love more middles coming into this team. Yeah,
of course. Break even of 17, as you said, with 100% likelihood of him hitting that. I think I'd much rather that be 99 than 100%. But he's a guy that I've actually got sat on the pine this week. I'm very thankful. I mean, on Tuesday after TLT, I said that I've got a full man squad lined up this week, but obviously Supercoach Gods giveth and Supercoach Gods
Not
take
anymore.
it. But no. So I've got Lucas out, but I'm still fortunate to not have Naf White starting. If I look at my plans next week, I'm just trying to work out who I'm taking out. I think I might have to rely on Naf White at an absolute pinch, but not the end of the world. I get a good look at him this week. Break even at 17. We'll probably still have a break even of around 30-ish next week. Very happy to hold. Try and get some cash to mature and try and flick him on for a small gain. But, if the role's still there, I'm very happy to play him. It's promising that he is named to start and Collins off the bench, which is fantastic. But definitely not panic stations over at the Ruck Whisperers, but maybe on notice. Maybe like when you have your first casual job and you make a mistake and they pull you aside and say, look, mistakes happen, but just don't do it again. That's sort of where we're at with Naf White at the moment.
Nat Wife. A bit like Break Bravery and Naf Wife.
Naf White and Black Bailey.
Gashevsky seems to be in that naughty corner as well. There's rumours. Obviously, he's been named to start. That's all well and good. But there's rumours that Piakura is going to replace him at either the 24-hour cut or the 1 hour cut. So, I mean, look, obviously we don't do anything with him. We just keep him there. He's going to make money. He's got a negative 10 break even. Just keep him there for a week. But yeah, not good signs for Goz. Not really much we can do from that perspective anyway, unfortunately.
Not selling, not buying. He's in
just
the
being
Nico
a little
Hines
sad.
category. He's in the Nico Hines category of, all right, I own him. This is the bed that I've made, and we're going to sleep in it until the sheets need to be changed.
That's fair. Mate, look, our boy Tom Duffy, and he's lost his spot.
Our boy.
And
what's he, our boy?
He's our boy. He's everyone's boy. Everyone wanted him to do well. 198k cheapie.
He's just a no. He's just another name on the roster.
Rude.
Next man up mentality over at the Ruck Whisperers.
Jake Clifford replaces him, which was a matter of time, I guess. But Braden Burns also gone down with a hammy, sadly. A lot of injuries for Braden Burns, unfortunately. But Robert Darby gets his chance on the wing. So very positive. And I don't mind a Cowboys right winger. We know that they get plenty of ball. Just sadly, the Cowboys are just not the Cowboys of old this year. So I'm not touching any of them with a 10-foot pole.
I'm glad people are finally coming on to this Cowboys anti-propaganda that I've been spinning for a while. It's nice I'm not the only one. But look, unfortunately for Burns, wheels up PNG superstar Robert Derby. But I guess wheels up Jesse Arthur's even more probably.
I'd say so, yes. Speaking of wheels well and truly down, Nanai back on the bench. That's fine. But how do we see that playing out for O'Donnell and Bateman? He'd surely spell O'Donnell over Bateman, wouldn't he?
Probably.
Actually, I'm asking the wrong person that question.
No. I think so. I don't know. Maybe just Peyton plays him in the middle just because he can. I don't know. Me trying to give any sense to the Cowboys rotation or what the hell Todd Payton's doing. I don't know. I generally think he's on last legs. I think we went through their draw on Sunday, mate. They could be a real chance of being 0-6 heading into the bye, and there could be Josh Hannay. Is it Josh Hannay? Josh Hannay. He could be updating his LinkedIn job title in the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, every chance, I think. Hubner's suspended for 2 weeks. He's a hold. That's fine. He'll be back. He'll make you money when he comes back. Jareem Bull has been named to start, but touch and go with an ankle injury. So we see Heath Mason there on the extended bench. I think there's every chance. I don't know what 50-50 means these days when a coach says it, but it seems to be the same situation as Turbo. They're giving him every chance to play, but if he's pulled up a bit sore and didn't play the 80 last week and came off limping, there's a little bit of concern there for Buller, but not overly SuperCoach relevant for now. Brodie Jones replaces Leo Thompson. He's out for 4 weeks, not relevant. KPP is also suspended, sadly, so probably move on from him. And we've already talked about Dylan Lucas, unfortunately. For anybody who missed the start of the show, he's out with a hamstring, or as out can be, with a hamstring injury done at training today. So very sad, but likely a hold for now. I think we've already discussed. So we'll reassess after the night's bye. Khan Pereira, mate, he's out with a calf injury, replaced by Tony Francis. And sadly, we don't see Carter Gordon anywhere. So I was hoping there might have been a door that might have opened a tiny bit over at the Titans with Carter Gordon, but not even playing cup. So
I think he's still cooked. I think he's still battling that preseason injury, which sucks. But mate, the Titans stink. It'll be a case of when, not if, for old CG. So yeah, get him in. But yeah, Loffy out. Tony Francis in. Could be a decent little fantasy pickup. I think he's got some really, really good BP and fantasy, a game where price changes happen from week 1. If you watch us for either UFC content or you're just a fan of fantasy to listen to us. Why? But thank you. And probably Tony Francis is a good guy to be looking at targeting. Matty Burton, Billy Kicks, both out for a month, mate, with that MCL, replaced by Hayward, replaced by Statili as well. So I guess shout out anyone that bought Statili after round 1.
Tough. Yeah. I mean, it's a win for, and the arsiest fucking SuperCoach win of all time to pick Statili last week off the back of him scoring 2 tries off the bench in 30 minutes and then miraculously kick out goes down and he gets minutes. So good on you. You've absolutely got to get lotto numbers and let us know this week because you're every chance of taking that one out. And sadly, Zach Hosking, for anybody like us that was pod hunting on Hosking, he'll be out for a month with a broken hand. So we do see Morgan Smithies move to lock. What am I missing there? Raiders. Nicholson, your boy, we've already spoken about.
And Matty the GOAT. What do you mean? What are you missing? The most important team news of it all.
Yeah,
Alex Seyfarth trade out next week is named.
Yes, it could be. That's it. All right, that is the winners and losers from TLT. Let's move into the buy, hold, and sell. Brought to you, as always, by Ryan from Astute Newstead. If your rates are above 5.9% and you're in the home loan market, maybe you want to buy your first home, maybe you want to renovate, or you just want to save some cash like the rest of us, then Ryan is your guy. He does all the heavy lifting and has over 40 lenders on panel, including all the major banks, to get you the best deal. And the best part, there is absolutely no obligation when you contact him. It doesn't cost you a cent. So you can book your free consult, let him know your situation via the link in the description below. Just let him know that Insight sent you and he'll look after you. Now, mate, we've got a couple of buys, and we'll probably spitball a little bit here, but we've got the Cheapie Rankings. So you won't see any cheapies in this conversation here to buy. We'll be talking about them later, but let's have a chat about the purchases this week.
Target acquired.
I'm all on board Tommy Starling this week, Josh. I think from what we've seen round 1, round 2, yes, there's some attack there, but he still had 55 and 54 in base power in his first 2 games. He played 63 and 71 minutes over the last 2 weeks. We also saw him rotate into the middle. They're obviously keen to give Owen Paddy some minutes at hooker and then not taking him off the field, which goes to show how valuable he is. I don't know what Ricky Stewart's done because it looks like Tom Starling's on the move next year. And they're still playing him max minutes because he's the best option. So shout out to Ricky for making the right move for once. I think he's a purchase now at a minus 50 odd break even. He could be 500K in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not concerned, but we saw him play with Paddy when Tarpany was sin binned in Vegas, and then obviously no Tarpany last week. So it's a case of like, we haven't had a great idea of his role. We can have an okay idea, but there's enough data, mate, to suggest I think he's averaging like 63 over 60 minutes, and that's at an okay sample size as well. So yeah, he's a guy that could be a genuine like hook 2. I'm always going to keep saying that now. He is a very, very good hook to a candidate for the rest of the season. Right now, he's my flex, which feels fucking weird to say considering the preseason narratives that we were spinning less than 6 weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, I'm all aboard the Starling trend, mate. If you give me any excuse to buy Tom Starling, I'm all there. And the fact that I suggested he could rival Harry Grant as the hooker 1 if he was playing 80 minutes week in, week out shows you just how much I love the guy. And I do think it's a case of just running him into the ground if he's out of the door next year. But for me, mate, as much as I love as much as I love Tom Starling, I do love good BP. And that's definitely what Payne Haas is providing us, mate. He's doing things on a football field that I don't think I've ever seen a front row forward do. He was absolutely exceptional in his rookie year in 2019, and it's just been much the same for the last 6 years. I've said it multiple times. Being a Tigers fan now, being able to watch Terrell May week in, week out gives me so much respect and admiration for Payne Haas and just the work that he does week in, week out. People are frothing over Terrell May and the work that he's doing, and rightfully so. But we do forget Payne Haas has done this for 24 weeks of the year, 6 years, and he's just in absolutely career best form in the middle of Ramadan, just putting up 90 BP like it ain't nothing. He's that guy playing less minutes, but just better PPM, and he's just been absolutely unleashed. I think he's the buy of the week.
Yeah. I'd say it's this week you need to grab him. Otherwise, you're going to be paying $750 for him next week. Maybe could be $800K in 2 weeks. He's got a break even of like 9. So he's, if he comes out and does what he did, he's got 92 BP average over the last 2 rounds. If he comes out and even gets 75 to 80, you're going to be paying an extra 78K. He's going to be 760, 770K next week. Actually, no, 750K next week. Still a buy next week, I think, as well, even at that price based on what we've seen. But yeah, get on now before you have to pay more. Obviously, Matrix isn't with us tonight, but we're going to mention his boy in the Cheapie conversation, but it's got to be Jesse Arthurs, doesn't it? Like, he nailed this one in the preseason. I shat on it, so that's one I have to give him his flowers on this one. I mean, is he a case of a good system or a good structure this year and an ordinary player? Sure, but I guess, and Matrix will go into bat for him here on this one. We see that left edge with Ben Hunt on it. Just looks like a completely different team, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, and AJ, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Is Alex Johnson the best winger of all time? No. Is he probably going to break the record for most tries scored ever? Yes. Like, it's just a case of right place, right time, and that's the thing. That's the thing with Jesse Arthurs. Like, he's taking his chance, and the Broncos are a team that are really performing, and they're putting up points regardless. And he seems to find attack. Like Jason Saab is doing something similar at Manly, like 4 line breaks for him last week. Like, it's very similar for Arthurs. Good ball. He's obviously a football player. Like, he's a professional athlete, so he's clearly of standard. But is he the most talented player in the world? No, but he's doing what he can with his role. And Broncos have 5 in a row or something like that. 5 of the next 7, maybe 4 in a row, and 5 of the next 6 of the 7 at Suncorp. Like, there's going to be weeks there we don't play him, but after that Suncorp stretch, mate, like, I'm not shocked if he's 580, 600.
Which is crazy to think. So I think you got to jump on. If he goes and scores a couple of tries this week against a Cowboys outfit that's been pretty ordinary, he could make a couple of 100K in 2 weeks pretty comfortably, I think. So definitely jump on Jesse Arthurs. We'll talk about him in a bit more length later, but let's move on to the holds. I've got a couple. One, I think, is due to the fact that you probably have a lot of other fires to put out. You're not a fan, so it might be good to get your opinion.
It sucks because we had so much high hopes and expectations in the preseason, and so much data to back it up, and now it's just not.
And we're looking at. And unfortunately, it's Jackson Purdue that we're talking about. I do think he is a hold this week purely because he's not going to bleed you cash. I don't think he's...
Disregard everything I just said. I've looked at your sell list, which is why I was sad. No, Jackson Purdue, no, bum.
Yeah, that's why I was saying you're not a fan.
No, sorry. I was looking at the sell category. I just had the heading covered. I was like, I can't believe we're cutting ties with him.
Yes.
But, yeah, no.
I'm holding Jackson Purdue this week. Purely.
No, I take away my support. Everything I just said about the guy, about vibes and numbers and data, wrong guy.
I think I'll preface this with the fact that you can make the cash work better with other players. I think if you've got no other issues, you don't have Lucas, you don't have Hosking, you maybe started without Duffy. Sure, great. You've got no other fires to put out. You can trade him because he's not going to blow you up, but he's also not going to hurt you. But I think if you want to maximize cash elsewhere, I think that Jackson Purdue could be a hold. He's only got a 17 break even. He plays against the Broncos. If Mariner's playing, who's he going to be running at on that side? He'll be left center. So right. Dean Mariner. If Staggs isn't good to go, he's running at Mariner's edge, which is fine. He's also probably going to let in 3 tries.
He's good to go. Like Stag doesn't play footy for 6 weeks.
Mm.
Like he's going to be world class off the bat, so I think it's fine. Like I'm not
Still a
playing
decent
him.
defender though.
I'm not saying
Oh,
we
fuck
play
no.
Purdue, but
I don't think you'd ever play him. I think it's a matter of if not when you're going to trade him out. But I think you can probably make things work a little bit better by holding him this week and using cash from Turbo. Even a guy that we'll talk about in the sell category a little bit later. Who's yours, mate? Who are you holding on to?
mine is another man north of the border. It's Reece Walsh, which I don't know. Feels like people just hate him regardless. Like I get it. Like the Reece Walsh experience is never fun. It's a very rocky ride. We keep saying this week in and week out. But for me, man, I genuinely believe over the next 5 weeks, he is the top scoring fullback. And the draw is exceptional. He seems like a footballer or it doesn't seem like it. He's a footballer that can just forget about the bad that's happened. Madge seems like a guy that's just going to put a rocket up him. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos just put on 36 points and Walsh scores 120 and we forget about everything that ever happened and things are fine. Like if break evens weren't a thing, I'd buy Reece Walsh this week. So I don't understand the sell for him.
You're a bit burnt by him last year because you bought Reece Walsh in exactly the same scenario last year with 191 break even and it hurt you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but like you just got to look at a player for who they are. Like that's why like I don't really buy into like the Sifa Talakai slander. Like, I'm just like
we were talking about the rotation between Ponga and Walsh. Rounds 1 to 3 was Ponga, round 4 to 5 was Walsh, and round 6 onwards was Ponga. That hasn't changed. Reece Walsh still has incredibly nice matchups. We're talking the Cowboys this week into a couple of really nice ones. I haven't got them at hand, but like they're very nice matchups. They're at Suncorp. I think he's going to bounce back and prove a point in this game. So yeah, absolutely. If you're selling him this week, you need to reconsider that 100%.
Absolutely. And people say like, oh, what about the money that we lose? I'm like, well, if I have Reece Walsh, I have no desire to sell him until like round 10. So I probably regain the money that I lost anyway.
Yeah. And honestly, I have toyed around with my team on what I could do and what I could make work to buy Reece Walsh this week and just go against the trend of everyone moving off him or being a bit down on him. He could be, and we'll talk about him in captaincy, could be one of the best options this week in that category as well. Let's move on to the sells, mate. Sadly,
this is where I'm sad because the vibes were high, numbers were great. We had so much faith in him. Team sucks, not his fault.
Yes, and as I said on Twitter for anybody who follows me there or X, it's not you, Jermaine. It's the Eels. And then everybody was saying, well, it actually is him because he was shit, and it kind of was, but that got in the way of my anti-Eels agenda, and I wasn't here for it. So Jermaine Hopgood sadly started with an average of 50.5. He was priced at a 67. We know what he can do. Fuck, it's just so disappointing to see him on such a bad team. Spending so much time with the teapot, hands on hips, waiting for goal kicks against his own team. When the Tigers put 32 on you, you know you're in a little bit of trouble. As much as we talk a fair bit of shit about the Tigers, like you're coming off 3 spoons. I don't know. I think the Eels and the Cowboys are fucking front runners for the spoon this year, and that's not usually a good thing for a middle forward.
No, and like I think I don't know. I'm annoyed that I bought him. I think I just had FOMO because like I'm a massive subscriber into not jumping on injuries. We know he had the cooked Gary Jack in the preseason and he had a short preseason. I just was like, oh, he could be a season keeper, but until the Eels get better, man, like it's tough. Like I'm holding him this week with all intention of selling next week. But the question is like, if he pumps out like a 70 this week, then I'm like,
Makes it harder, doesn't it?
You're on life support. The family's ready to turn it off and let you go out. But they say that small murmur. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to say something, and I'm like, oh, maybe we can get him back. We can get the defibrillator out. He's back. He's alive. But I can understand selling. I can understand holding. It's just a shame. I mean, I do think Parramatta are more in the contest this week. But yeah, I mean, I understand it. Unfortunately,
Hopgood to Haas seems like a no-brainer this week. If you don't have much cash, that's the play.
My cellmate has me as the most hated man on SuperCoach Twitter this week, and it is Tom Trbojevic. What more do I need to say? Like I've said it multiple times. I just don't trust him. Like we always ride the Turbo Express every year, but it lasts more than fucking a game and a half normally. And for me, it's like if it goes wrong, my rank on screen could be doubled, and it would take 7-8 weeks to get it back down to something being respectable. If I'm a betting man, and I bet that it doesn't go well. I think he scores 0 points this week, and if he does play, he's at a severe risk of any kind of benching or strain.
Let's think about
or everything.
Think about the narrative, right? Turbo gets named. Turbo plays. Everyone knows about this hamstring concern. Didn't play a full game last week. Goes out in this game and does a hammy, right? Can you imagine the narrative around Anthony Seibold and how much flack he would cop from everyone if Turbo got injured this week? Surely that's playing on their mind. Like there's risk there, I think, if they're playing him on the field after everything that's gone on over the last few years with Turbo's hammies. So I've also seen multiple team names in SuperCoach called Turbo's hammies. So when you've got your SuperCoach name very well ingrained in SuperCoach folklore as the fact that you injure a certain body part, it's got to be a concern, I think, moving forward for him. So yeah,
obviously the big concern here is this round 4 matchup against Parramatta.
100%.
What if he's not there? Like, what if this is just like this? Like, this is the thing. Like, you hold a guy with no guarantee he plays next week, or he does play this week, and you guys are like, "Oh, we'll see. This is why you hold him," and then he's pulled off again, and the 60th minute, and we get the same spiel from Anthony Seibold being like, "Oh, well, it's 2 weeks in a row now." Like, we know that hamstrings have the biggest re-injury risk of pretty much any body part. And a guy with him that's had a cooked Gary Jack, that's had a cooked groin, that's had a cooked hammy, that's had a cooked everything. I would not be shocked if this is a regular occurrence. Hey, we're up. I mean, they were down last week, but hey, we're up by 20 to go. We have DCE. We have Luke Brooks. They can see the game out. We got Lee Hop-White to play fullback. We've got, Gary who can play fullback.
Cola.
What if he's just playing? Yeah, Cola. What if he's just playing 65 minutes every week? Like, no thanks.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same thinking as you. Now let's quickly. There's a few players that are on the watch list this week, so we'll talk about that.
I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
Popular buys this week, mate. Tino, I'm watching this week, and I think I understand why people are going early because he was just a fucking monster last week. But I think I just want to see one more game of that. Pass the eyeball test for me.
If I started with like Haas, then I'm okay with buying Tino. Like, it's fine. Like, in a perfect world, we wait another week. But I mean, man, he was good. Like, yeah, it scored 100 with a try, but like, still like 72, 73 BP, which is like unreal. The biggest thing for him is the minutes. We were worried about that. Worried about his comments about him having no tank, but it seems like Des Hasler says, I don't care. I need you, and you need to just fucking put up with it. And which is great for SuperCoach.
Absolutely. Definitely going to be on the top of the list next week when we're doing buy, hold, and sell, I am sure. Matty Nicholson also a watch, mate. Obviously, only his second game. He won't change in price, and you'll find that's a theme here for the most part. But, look, I'm a little bit more cautious on Matty Nicholson, just knowing what Ricky can do with his forward rotation. But at the same time, I think that right edge is his moving forward, especially with Hosking moving to the middle before this.
When are you going to start drinking the Kool-Aid, mate?
Next week.
I've been trying to give you the Kool-Aid since December. I'm glad.
Yeah, but then it's bandwagon Kool-Aid. Then it's bandwagon Kool-Aid. I've just got to let you have your moment. You can have that by yourself, and I'll just jump on when I need
honestly,
to in round 3.
In 6 years of SuperCoach, I think it may be my greatest call. But no, not my greatest. My most satisfying, because all preseason I was told how good Hosking is, and he's the guy, and he's going to start. And the minute that Matt Nicholson's fit, Ricky's like, you know what? You're actually pretty good. You're in.
Hosking, you're a middle now.
Yeah. But also, peak Ricky, it's just like, yeah, he's been trained in the middle. He offers us a lot through the middle. First chance he gets, back on the right edge. Back on the right edge for you, sir. And scores 2 tries. He's a gun line runner. I'm talking him up. I don't own him. I won't be owning him this week. It'll be a next week thing. But yeah, my love for you is still strong with Mr. Nicholson.
Mm-hmm. We've got Walsh on Fraud Watch.
No, hang on. Wait.
It's a greater call than Kelmer. Yeah. I mean, Wayne hops on and reminds me about Kelmer every week. I appreciate him for that. Thanks,
it doesn't matter that the whole like dynamic of Kelmer shifted. Like, people just forget that.
Yeah. And
his only saving grace was Mitchell Moses, and Mitchell Moses goes, and all of a sudden people are like, nah, fuck that, Kelmer shit.
Yeah, exactly. Even so shit that he has now created the word "you've been kelmed" when you get hooked off the field. So very impressive stuff. Walsh on fraud watch, mate. If he goes low again against the Cowboys, are you concerned?
You know how like I spent like my Supercoach reputation like went through the roof last week because of Nicholson, which is really good. Like people like think I'm some kind of analysis now, which is unreal. But if Walsh shits the bed again, Mayor, I'm back to square one. Any credit that I built up in the bank is gone.
No, I don't. Look, I think there is no fucking way in the world Walsh can fail this week, and that might be a big call. Nah, gonna happen. He's gonna go large this week. I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here on Sunday night going, "Fuck." Remember when we said Walsh had a 120 odd break even? Yeah, he covered it, and I wouldn't be surprised at all. Ryan Pappenhausen, also a guy that is on the watch list for me. I think I'm going to wait one more week. I'm not picking up anybody that versus Penrith, and I'm not picking up anybody that versus the Melbourne Storm this week. They play against each other, sadly. So I'm just going to wait and pick up Pappy or Munster or whoever it be, and I'll wait a week on the bubble.
Yeah, I mean, last week was like an absolute anomaly for Penrith. Like it was just a horror show, and I think this game is quite a low scoring affair. So, yeah, not keen on any Storm boys, not keen on any Penrith boys either.
Mm-hmm. And Jamie Camilleri hit the nail on the head here. Seyfarth and Naf White both on the watch list as guys that could be potentially trade out options next week if things don't go their way as well. Mate, let's rank these cheapies. You know, we've got a lot of questions around Toya versus, or not Toya, but Arthurs versus Tamale, or should I get Tamale or fade Tamale, or should I get Starling? So we're going to rank these cheapies 1 to 10 for you based on what we think in terms of short-term options to make cash, but also scoring options too. So we've got Jesse Arthurs, who has a negative 82 break even. We've got Rob Toya with a negative 70, Tamale with a neg 59, Starling with a neg 58, Smith with a minus 51, Shibasaki with a minus 43. Then we've got Mamazelis minus 35, Humphreys minus 25, Pakes minus 21. And lastly, we've got the Goz, Jack Gashevsky with a minus 10. Who's number one on the list, mate, for you?
Was hoping you put these in the notes in the order that I gave you, but you haven't. So I've had to scroll back up. So for me, I think it's pretty crystal clear of it being Bob Toya. Like, cheapest of the lot.
Name?
Hey?
There's like a number literally right next to their name. Are you looking at different notes to me, or?
Oh, sorry, you've numbered them. No, but that doesn't tickle my brain. I need them in order. It's fine. I've got them on my phone.
This guy just all right. Go on.
This guy
Do his job for him.
Supposed ultimate professional, hardly. For me, it's Bob Toya at number one. I just think at the price with the role is probably the most secure in terms of like, maybe number 3 is more secure in his job. But you know, the Roosters really rate Rob Toya so highly. He's looked really good in his first 2 weeks. He was probably their best in a very, very well beaten side in round 1, and definitely held his own last week in round 2 against some pretty tough matchups, mate. You know, minus 70 break even, bottom dollar. If you don't have him, what have you been doing? But secondly, get him in. Like he's the priority for me. I assume that you agree.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's hard to look at the most owned player in Supercoach and say that they're a priority trade in, because 66.7% of Supercoaches have him. But if you're by some reason in the 33.3%, like you just need to get him. That's definitely the main target on the list. Number 2, mate, Tom Starling, negative 58 break even. Obviously, he's your Tom Duffy bailout, considering you likely have Sandon Smith at hooker 2. And that probably is just in terms of a structure perspective why we prefer Starling over an Arthurs or a Tamale. Because I think Starling can also be a season keeper at hooker 2. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so do I, of course. Like, if he's putting up the production that he's putting up, like it's just for me, it's always been about the minutes with Starling, and he's getting them, which is great for now. We know Sticky can turn it on a dime, so obviously, in theory, he's the hooker 2. I think he can, match a low end Reid Marnie or a low end like JMK. And we're getting him for 200k cheaper. So for me, he's the second guy. Offers a bit more consistency than the guy at number 3. But if you had these swapped around, then yeah, I'm not going to pick fights over you.
Yeah, fair enough. Arthur's at number 3 for obvious reasons. I think we talked about Ben Hunt being on that left edge. That left edge is humming. We even saw Shibasaki score relatively well in game 1, obviously back down to earth in game 2. But I think he's going to have more games in the positive than in the negative. So same with Arthurs. He scored 3 tries last week. But I think the one thing that was impressive for me was that he took 16 runs, Josh. Like, normally, and we spoke about this the other night on the Q&A, Arthurs isn't known for his base, right? But 16 runs tells me that maybe there's a little bit of a higher floor there than previous seasons.
Yeah, that's the key thing for me as well. Like, I think those 15s and 16s in his game may turn to like 24, 25s, which isn't much, but 10 points is massive. Now, if like we're getting 25 at the worst for the ceiling that York possesses, it's absolutely unreal. And I just want to highlight Jake Lindsay, regular in the show, his comment, if you haven't got Big Red, like, what are you doing? Like, he is number one by the length of Flemington. If you don't have Horsburgh, move heaven and earth to get him. He's the guy that could be there at the end of the season for me, generally. So, but for me, it's Arthur's in 3. Looks like he got a better floor this season, much better attacking team, and everything's humming. Whilst they have a really good draw, take advantage of it. Is he a season keeper? Probably not. That's why we've gone with Starling over Arthur's. But Arthur's is going to make you more money in the shorter time with a better ceiling. Mate, number 5 for me, bit of Undertaker vibes about him. Just sat up from the dead, just rose when we thought he was down and out. Sandon Smith played fantastically, old singer, on the weekend. So, yeah, bit of cash gen moving for him, which is fantastic. Kicking him like Hazmo Masri, looking like Cooper Cronk, like, that's what we want. If he's averaging 50, then I'm taking that, which he's outperforming that right now.
Oh, for sure. Like, if you told us at the start of the year you can have Sandon Smith with a 50 average for the first 11 rounds, I would have ran with that and not asked questions. I think we were more than happy with like a 42. So to get a 50 at the moment is fantastic. I think we might see those lower games. He's shown that he doesn't necessarily have that consistency or that floor. But in saying that, having the goal kicking, if the Roosters start to outperform what we think they're going to do, which was another reason why we thought maybe there were some question marks around Smith if the Roosters were going to be poor. If the Roosters can turn up and put some scores on the board, which again, they're every chance of doing that again this week. He's definitely a guy you need in your team. If you don't have Sandon Smith, are you making it a priority to get him in this week over a guy like, because they're both hooker available, you're picking him over Starling?
No, and that's why Starling's ranked 2 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Starling's got a longer life shelf. I think Sam Walker maybe is about a month and a half, 2 months away as well. So
think about round 10, round 11.
Yeah, Sandon does have a shelf life on him. So Teddy's been talking him up. Said he's pretty much competing in all the drills. I think he said he was just ripping them apart in anything non-contact. So if they're playing touch or anything like that, he's still been Sam Walker of old. So Sandon Smith does have a shelf life on him, which is why he's probably a little bit lower as well.
Yep, agreed. You did skip over Tamale as number 4 before we moved to 5.
Apologies.
But in saying that, like, I think Tamale, I'm a big fan of Tamale. I think that he's got a really super coach friendly game. We saw the tackle breaks that he got in the first game. That's more obviously fantasy relevant, but still, when you can put up those kind of numbers, I think he had 40 odd plus BP or 50 plus BP in game 1, but then it came back down to a 31 in BP in game 2. So I can probably think maybe we're going to find something in the middle there somewhere. He's a tackle breaker. He's a guy that can beat first contact. So I think we are going to see him score some tries on the wing for the Raiders as well. So, yeah, definitely a guy that I would be prioritising. I thankfully started with him. If I didn't have him, I'm still looking at Toya, still looking at Arthurs, still looking at Starling, but I think Tamale probably comes next on the list there when we're looking at cheapies. Yes. Mamazelis comes in at 6, mate. Negative 35 break even. I mean, again, we're looking at Starling, but if you don't have the money to get up to Starling, which people don't, they don't have that extra 50 or 60K to play with, Mamazelis is a perfectly fine option, I think, at negative 35, especially now that it looks like Humphreys is maybe solidified that 7, at least for the short term.
Yeah, I think Humphreys. I think Mamazelis has been overshadowed a little bit as well by the performance of like a guy like Starling as well. Like, he's 300K, he's getting good minutes, probably similar minutes to Starling with a slightly lower PPM. The draw does turn pretty bad, which is more favourable for middles than it is a halfback, which is why we do have him ranked over a guy like Jamie Humphreys. Jamie Humphreys also will be losing 6, 7, 8 points a game from goal kicking when Trell's back, which is not too far away. South put some videos up today. He looked unreal. He looked like Trell that we saw in the preseason. So not too far away for Trell, which would sort of dampen Humphreys a little bit. But obviously, yeah, I think Mamazelis is still a very, very fine option. If you can't make the money work for Starling, I think Mamazelis is a fine trade-off. Moving into Garrett Shibasaki, he is the next man on our list. Decent job security, has played quite well. I think he's justified Madge's trust in him. I know Broncos fans are calling for Dean Mariner because he does some cool plays and he makes the highlight reel, but I think for what whether it is Jack Gosiewski, whether it is Brendan Piacora, like you do need some kind of defensive stability around them. And I think Shibasaki offers that for the Broncos and for Madge.
Yeah, and look, I have to eat humble pie on this one as well, of course, because when you talk a little bit of shit around the Broncos left edge, you've got to eat shit when they do well, and they've absolutely killed it. -43 break even. I think, I didn't start with him, and I'm preferring Arthur's over it, like we've spoken about. But if you've already got Arthur's, he's a great option because I think you can double down on that left edge. I would say there's every chance they could, if Arthur's is going to score well. That support play from Shibasaki is really impressive. It seems like he's in and around the ball a lot on breaks. Never gives up on the play, especially anywhere near the ball on attack. So, yeah, I like him as a play. He's definitely proven me wrong this year. Jamie Humphries, -25. He's number 8 on the list. Again, we talked about Latrell being nearly back. So, yeah, like we said, that dampens his appeal somewhat. Definitely preferring a guy like Starling via Jules of Sandon rather than putting Humphries in at halfback at this point in time. But in saying that, if you're a fantasy player or a DT player, dream team player, and kick meters are obviously very relevant in those formats, Humphries is putting up 700 kick meters a game. Cody Walker's barely touching the boot. So, definitely a guy you want in those formats. If you don't already have him, you're going to be paying a pretty penny. He's due, I think in fantasy, Josh, he's due to rise 123K this week if he hits his projected.
I think he's like 480K, so it'd be like 600K in fantasy, which is ridiculous. And he's like the number 1 halfback, and that's better than Cleary, which is crazy because he's just racking up kick meters galore, which is great. Yep. But yeah, for SuperCoach, I've got no interest at all. And a couple of people on Twitter have asked me why, and I don't have the time to answer every single person. So hopefully they're watching. You're losing the goal kicking very shortly. You're coming up against a really, really tough team. Troll's going to be demanding ball, less touches, less ability to have end product if you're Jamie Humphries, but very, very pretty on the eye to watch. Makes all the girls and some guys go crazy at Souths. Great watch. Don't want him for SC, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair. Corey Pakes is number 9, -21. Again, if you don't necessarily like Mamazelis and you need a cheaper option at hooker, then Pakes is your guy. But again, he's number 9 on this list for a reason, as is Jack Gosiewski, number 10, because he's pretty much the only guy left with a negative break even. But unfortunately, looks like he'll either be dropping back to the bench or dropping out completely for Piacura this week. So I would, probably even leave this list at 9, Josh, and leave Goz off the list completely as a guy we wouldn't recommend to buy.
Disrespect. No, look, if you've got him, if you started with him, you hang on to him just until the last moment. But I'm absolutely not buying him at all.
No, for sure. Mate, let's move on to the captains for this week.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
VC, mate, it's... look, honestly, we've got 3 Broncos on this list, so we're clearly targeting one team, aren't we? One game. It's Reece Walsh for obvious reasons. He could go berserk. I called it earlier that I wouldn't be surprised if he hit his break even. I stand by that. 120 odd break even. That's very, very doable for him. And after last week, there is no way in the world he's going to come out and give anything less than 110%. And I think Madge would have revved him up a fair bit during the week. So if you got Walsh,
if you've got Walsh, absolutely. Like Cleary for me is no option this week. Nico Hines, he's probably stocks have dropped a little bit with this news that he's carrying like a cork and maybe not goal kicking this week. So for me, I'm also probably going to target the Broncos unless something happens and changes. But I've got Selwyn Cobbo. We see that that left-hand winger for the Sharks. I think they're conceding 111 points a game. Saab ripped them apart, and can't remember who they played in round 1. Someone did the stats. They're conceding 111 points a game or something absolutely like monstrous. So Cobbo could be in for a field day. He goes close every single week. So if Staggs is there, obviously helps. It's going to harness a lot more defensive prowess. And so I had a quick look here. So the right, Saab and Stone Street, 109.5. And then on the left, which leads into Matty's selection of Hopawade and Mortale, they're averaging 71. And he's picked Jesse Arthurs as well. So we've gone for a 3-headed Broncos dragon.
Yes, with good reason after what we've seen from the Cowboys in the first 2 weeks of the year. But obviously with your VC loop, you're looking at someone with a really high ceiling, right? You're not going to take anything less than a 120 as a VC loop. I wouldn't have thought. Maybe 110 if we're stretching it. But again, we're looking at the captaincy option this week, and there's only really one real standout guy, and that's Kalen Ponga. I would be very surprised if Kalen Ponga goes sub 100 this week. But again, are we looking at trap games? Like, because last week we were pretty confident in our selections, and we saw Manly come out and shit the bed, and obviously Penrith lost as well. So, like, I don't know. How do you feel about this week? Are there any trap games?
Yeah, I think the three people that we mentioned in the previous game could be a bit of a trap game. That's why I'm only going VC on them. I mean, for me, full transparency, I've got VC Hines C into Ponga. I think with the goal kicking, it gives him a certain floor, which is like really handy. Like worst case, I think he scores like 60. I think Kalen Ponga is on a guy that's going to have an absolute shocker. And if Ponga on his worst gets 60, then I'm absolutely here for that. So I've got no one else to really bring to the table. Like maybe Hines against his opposition, but I'd feel much more confident if he was at full strength. So for me, it's just like maybe Harry Grant, but that just feels very boring. So for me, it's Hines into KP, and the fact that with Lucas out, I am playing a guy like Robert Toya means my threshold for a loop is probably a little bit smaller than previous weeks.
Looking at captaincy here at the moment for all coaches, Nathan Cleary is the most popular VC, 15%. Kalen Ponga, for some reason, no one's changed it from last week. I'm naturally assuming at 10%, but he's 32.9% captain. So a lot of people have just gone, yep, Ponga with the best matchup. You can have the orange armband this week, and I don't blame them at all. 15% of people have a straight C on Nathan Cleary on Thursday night against the Melbourne Storm. So that's an interesting one. I'm sure we'll see that change very close to kick off tomorrow. But I still don't hate the Nathan Cleary VC shout, just due to the fact that it just feels like one of those games where Nathan Cleary, that the Penrith Panthers got trampled last week and looked, anything but the Penrith Panthers we've seen over the last 4 years. And it would be typical Panthers for them to come out and put a fucking score on the Melbourne Storm. And if they're going to do that, it's going to be off the back of Nathan Cleary. There's every chance it could happen, but I think it's a low percentage of happening.
Oh, of course. I think it's definitely worth a VC shout. It's just no confidence. Why I'm not buying this week. Like if it was against any other team, I buy him this week. But for me, I'm very happy just to wait one more week on him.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So that's guys, that is captains. And lastly, we'll bring you our Game Day Squad of the week, brought to you by Game Day Squad. For those of you that have not played Game Day Squad before, it's the perfect crossover between card collecting and fantasy sports. You can play and win for free. You can collect, you can trade, you can buy and sell cards, and you can build yourself a squad and compete against us, as well as your friends in the Game Day Squad community that actually give away up to $100,000 in prizes as well. So shout out to Game Day Squad. You can sign up gamedaysquad.com.au or download the app and use the code. What is the code? IFSAUS. There it is on the screen there. And you get yourself 27 free cards valued at $21. So that'll get your squad going, and you can take us on there. And Matrix has brought us the squad of the week, I should say, which is an interesting squad. So let's dive in and let's talk about it, because you're going to see it on screen there. He's got Blake Brayley there at starting at hooker, not Harry Grant. He's got Blake Brayley because obviously Harry plays the Penrith Panthers. Then we've got in the middle forwards, we've got Paddy Carrigan and Haas, the two-headed beast there up front with Isaiah Yeo. We've got Nickera, and he's got Beau Fermor in at the edge forward spot, which is an interesting pick for the Titans, but maybe he's back in the Titans to go big this week. He's got Tom Gilbert and Wade Egan on the bench. Then we've got Nathan Cleary, Nicho Hines, the obvious half pair. Lukey Metcalf on the bench. Of course, this is Matrix's squad to beat, so it wouldn't be Matrix without Lukey Metcalf. Selwyn Cobbo, Herbie Farnworth in the centres, Marju and Arthur's there on the wing, Walsh at fullback for a bounce-back game, and then we've got Fletcher Sharp and Kalen Ponga there on the bench. So you can create your own squad. It doesn't cost a thing. You can jump on in. You get free cards every week, and the best thing about Game Day Squad for me is that you don't have to worry about missing the first 2 rounds, Josh. It's, you can jump in round 3, collect your free cards and build a squad, and they give away prizes every single week to the top scorer. So you can build a squad now and compete now. You haven't missed out like other formats.
Love some good week-to-week fantasy. Nothing better.
That's it. And they also do State of Origin and finals as well. So we'll be doing a bit of final stuff at the end of the year, that's for sure. But guys, thank you for jumping in. As always, it is, we're less than 24 hours now until the first game. So there's still plenty of tinkering to come, I am sure. The reverse trade button has absolutely copped a battering this week from my team. So I'm sure you're the same. But guys, if you want a little bit more from us, you want to see more, you want to hear more, you can become a Patreon subscriber for less than $10 a month. The link is in the description below to get access to all of our buy, hold, and sell articles, a lot more in-depth than what you'll find here today, as well as captaincy articles, wrap-ups for the week, and also other analytical stuff. So you can jump in there. WhatsApp chat's popping off as always as well. And remember to subscribe and like for the podcast, and we would appreciate that support. If you're listening to us on audio, hit the like button, leave a review, and we'll see you on Sunday for the wrap-up. Good luck this week in Green Arrows incoming. Catch you later.